What's going on, guys? B Scout here with you on today's show. We got your AFC North recap. I'm going to go ahead and recap the AFC North based on the 2021 NFL season. I always put out a prediction video for all the divisions before the season. So let's take a look back and see where I was right and where I was wrong heading into the Super Bowl week. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going through the AFC North today. I'm going to recap what they did in the 2021 NFL season ahead of the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl, so it's a good time to recap the AFC North. So before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, and then comment. If there's anything you want to hear related, anything NFL related, fantasy related, we'll have all kinds of off-season videos for you. Drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to voice my opinions further. So let's start at the top of the division. First off, the Cincinnati Bengals. My prediction coming into the season, 5-12. I worried about the offensive line holding up for Joe Burrow. I worried about him obviously coming off of injury, which is kind of weird considering I had him as my comeback player of the year prior to the season, but Burrow was outstanding. They finished 10-7, win the division, and albeit the division as a whole really had a down season. Usually this is one of the tougher divisions, especially on defense, and all of these defenses were really middle of the pack this season at best. The Cincinnati Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's been getting it done week in and week out on the road, and they put it on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's plain and simple. There ain't much else to say. They were down by 18, and they never gave up. They continued to fight and battle, and they won the game. Burrow, 70% completion percentage on the season in 2021. Great stats, 4,600 yards, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Joe Mixon had an also outstanding year, 1,500+ scrimmage yards, 16 total touchdowns. And then Jamar Chase breaks the rookie record that was set last year from Justin Jefferson for the most yards at 1,455, had 13 touchdowns. And he's been nothing short of outstanding. Honestly, that receiving core of the Cincinnati Bengals, their strength, they have 3 elite receivers. Tyler Boyd's a great slot receiver, and T. Higgins finished with over 1,000 yards. The defense has picked it up in spots, but it's still a middle-of-the-pack defense. They've played well, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs. I mean, they've been getting it done when they needed to, coming up with big plays. And I give all the credit in the world to the Cincinnati Bengals. I really thought coming in they could struggle on the season based on where the division dynamics were. It played in their favor. They made it in the playoffs, and they've been winning football games, and that's what matters. You just got to get to the playoffs sometimes, and you always have a shot, especially with Joe Burrow and how well he's played. Sacked 9 times by the Tennessee Titans and still resilient enough to pull that win off. Faced the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, and once again picks up the W against Kansas City Chiefs. Second time in the last 4 or 5 weeks they played them. They beat them. So outstanding for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think going forward, they need to improve the offensive line. We know this. Joe Burrow, I want to say, led the league in sacks, being sacked. So you got to get the offensive line better here, but they got a lot of offensive weapons, and the defense is a little bit older in spots, but they got a good defensive line. They could work on the secondary a little bit. So next team when we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, squeaked into the playoffs at 9-7-1. My prediction, I had them at 8-9. I figured they'd be right around the 500 mark. And I thought maybe they would be under that. Well, no. Once again, they finished above it, like Ben Roethlisberger has in every single season he's played. Same thing with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. They just continue to win no matter what, 500 or better every single season. And look, Big Ben is retiring. Life after Big Ben, Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph's not the answer. We know this. He's terrible. I can't believe he's still on the football team. He's just not a good football player. The one tie they had, it was Mason Rudolph against the Detroit Lions. Started that game. So they need a quarterback. They're going to have Dwayne Haskins come back. Maybe they draft somebody. Maybe they try and sign somebody. We'll have to wait and see, but they do need a quarterback. Also, the defense, it struggled. Outside of leading the league in sacks and TJ Watt, tying the record in sacks, the defense struggled. They allowed the 9th most yards, the most rushing yards, 13th most points at 23.4 per game. So the defense struggled, and that's Pittsburgh's strength. That's really the AFC North strength. And all 4 of these teams were really middle of the pack, and none of them stood out against each other. They need help at the linebacker position, obviously, because they couldn't stop the run. Most rushing yards allowed. Najee Harris had a great year. Deontay Johnson, great wide receiver. So hopefully they can get a good quarterback in there, at least to manage the games. Maybe Jimmy G. There's talks of possibly him ended up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that'd be a pretty good fit. But they need somebody, and if they draft a rookie, they're probably going to lose more games than not. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is the answer, or Mason Rudolph for that much. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, outstanding season considering all the adversity and Ben Roethlisberger just not having it in his, 19th year, something like that. He just didn't have it, and you knew it coming in. How much gas did he actually have, and he still led him to a playoff berth. So great for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but for the future, they need a quarterback, and they need to work on the defense especially. So next thing we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. My prediction, 13-4. I had them winning the division. And what happens? They go 8-9. Lots of injuries, especially prior to the season. They started the season with their 3 starting running backs on season-ending IR. That's Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards. All 3 of them gone. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards both averaged over 5 yards per carry the season prior. And so what do? You put it all on the back of Lamar Jackson, and he struggled at times this season. Rashad Bateman, you were hoping to get him. Well, he missed the first 6 to 8 weeks of the football season. So that was tough there. Then Lamar Jackson misses the backstretch of the season, 4 games, with a high ankle sprain. And the defense fell apart. The secondary, Marcus Peters out for the season. Marlon Humphrey missed the back half of the season. So they were decimated with injuries this season that really showed, and they really struggled. Bottom 10 in sacks on the season, the most passing yards allowed, the 3rd most passing touchdowns allowed, just 9 interceptions on defense. That's 4th fewest in the league. So the defense really struggled, in which a division, like I mentioned, and I can keep mentioning, that their strengths are the defense. So if their defense is struggling, the offense is pretty good, but what can you do if your defense can't stop anybody? And Lamar Jackson struggled. They put a lot on his back. Once again, he had a pretty okay season. I wouldn't say it was game-breaking, but I wouldn't say it was bad either. And Mark Andrews, you seen it, and Tyler Huntley. He played very well in Lamar Jackson's absence. So I think the Baltimore Ravens, they need to get healthier, and I think they'll bounce back next season. The defense could use a little bit of retooling, especially on the line. They just didn't get any sacks, didn't get after the quarterback. In the secondary, we knew just all the injuries played a factor in the turnover battle. So Baltimore Ravens, I think they'll be just fine heading into next season. They get all their guys back and healthy, then we'll really have a good, strong look. Then we got the Cleveland Browns to round out the last in the AFC North division. I had them at 12-5. I thought they were going to fight for the division title. They finished 8-9. Same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. All these teams finishing right at 8-9 or better isn't too bad, considering Baker Mayfield played terribly. Yes, he was injured for much of the season with a pretty much broken shoulder, and he toughed it out and played through it. But you've seen it. He just couldn't get any mustard on the ball. He just could not do it. And Odell Beckham, they trade him away, and what does he do? He has more touchdowns with the Rams in 8 or 9 games than he did in 2.5 seasons with the Cleveland Browns. Could you say it was a Baker Mayfield problem or an Odell Beckham problem? What are we looking at here? But I'll tell you right now, Baker didn't play well. 60% completion percentage, 3,000 passing yards, 17 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, and down the backstretch, 10 interceptions in his last 6 games from weeks 10 to 17 for Baker Mayfield. And really, that was the problem for the Cleveland Browns. I want to say 4 or 5 of their losses were by a touchdown or less, so they were in a lot of the games, and the defense wasn't the problem. Defense, no issue. Highest ranked defense in the division, the 2nd fewest yards per play, behind only Buffalo, allowed at 5 yards per play. I want to say Buffalo was under 5 yards per play allowed. 5th fewest yards allowed on defense. So the Cleveland Browns defense didn't play all that bad. The secondary was pretty strong. The front was good with Myles Garrett and getting after the quarterback. So what's the problem? The problem was Baker Mayfield. Nick Chubb had a pretty good year, but missed some time. Kareem Hunt also missed, I want to say, half the year or close to it. Jarvis Landry, the Iron Man himself, even missed 5 games on the season, in which he hasn't missed an NFL game prior to this year, even playing through MCL sprains and stuff like that. That's how bad his injury was. So look, I put it on Baker Mayfield, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Baker's no good for the fact that he played hurt, and he played through it, and he did his best, and I get it down the stretch. I personally thought, with 3 or 4 games left, that they should have personally probably just turned to Case Keenum. I thought Case Keenum might have given him a better chance to win just down the backstretch, but because Baker could have had surgery and been able to heal up a little bit, but they didn't do that. They lost football games, 8-9. I think Cleveland Browns bounce back here. They're going to have Baker Mayfield more than likely back under center next year because I don't think there's going to be any better options. So we'll see with a healthy Baker Mayfield what they can do on offense heading in to the 2022 NFL season. So that's it. That's my AFC North recap heading in to Super Bowl week and into the offseason for the NFL. I'm going to be recapping every single division, so obviously just keep looking out for whichever division or whichever your favorite team drop in the comment section if you want to hear more about any of these teams or any team that I talk about. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.